You know the feeling. You reach over to turn off your morning alarm, and before your feet even hit the floor, you're just slammed with a tidal wave of everyone else's highlight
Oh,
reels.
yeah. The morning scroll.
Right. Impossibly perfect vacations,
Mhm.
promotions, spotless kitchens. And today in this deep dive, we're tracing the hidden and frankly kind of terrifying chain reaction that this daily habit kicks off in your brain.
It really is a chain reaction, yeah.
Because we've got three amazing sources today covering solitude, the art of non-reaction, and the dangers of comparison. And our mission here is to explore how comparing yourself to others isn't just, making you feel a little down.
No, it's much more active than that.
Exactly. It's actually acting as a hardwired trigger. It pushes you into this state of constant, impulsive, and often really destructive reaction.
Which is exhausting.
Completely exhausting. But we aren't just here to diagnose the problem. We're going to break down the neurological mechanics of the pause and how mastering intentional solitude can essentially help you unplug from the matrix, to take back control of your own life.
It's such a vital breakdown, too, because we're navigating a psychological landscape that our brains simply were not built for.
Right, the hardware hasn't updated.
Exactly. I mean, to understand this chain reaction, we have to look at the environment we're swimming in. And it starts with this concept from evolutionary biology.
Okay, take us back.
So, if you go back just a few hundred years, your circle of comparison was incredibly small. You were comparing yourself to your neighbors or maybe the other kids in your village.
Just the people right in front of you.
Right. Evolutionary anthropologists talk about Dunbar's number. It's this idea that humans are cognitively limited to maintaining stable social relationships with about 150 people.
Wow, just 150.
Yeah, that was your tribe. That was your entire world.
So feeling the urge to see how you stack up against those 150 people, it was just a survival mechanism, right? You needed to know you're standing in the tribe so you didn't get kicked out and, eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Precisely that. I mean, the biological urge to compare is deeply ingrained survival instinct. But the scale of that comparison has completely mutated.
Because of the internet.
Yeah, we don't just see the neighbor's new horse-drawn carriage anymore. Because of the screens in our pockets, we're constantly measuring our behind-the-scenes reality against the absolute best moments of, like, 8 billion people.
It's too much data.
Way too much. The hardware of our brains, that 150-person tribe monitor, it's completely short-circuiting under the sheer volume of global comparison.
Okay, let's unpack this because it's the ultimate unfair fight. You're comparing your messy, chaotic, deeply flawed life to everyone else's curated, edited, perfectly filtered output.
The highlight reel.
Yeah, it's like comparing your life awkward blooper reel to a Hollywood blockbuster's million-dollar trailer.
That's a great way to put it.
Because, you are intimately aware of your own unpaid bills, your insecurities, your morning breath, and those random, lonely Tuesday nights. But when you scroll, you only see the pinnacle of someone else's year, captured with a ring light and an expensive lens.
And the hidden danger of watching that movie trailer on a loop is that your primal brain does not know it's a trailer.
Wait, really? It just thinks it's real life.
It processes those images as objective reality. When you constantly consume those highlight reels, your brain registers a discrepancy in social status. It literally perceives that everyone else in the tribe is succeeding, thriving, and gathering resources way faster than you are.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a bummer.
No, it's not just a fleeting moment of sadness. It registers neurologically as a threat.
Which brings us to the core of this whole chain reaction.
Mhm.
How does this unfair comparison fundamentally alter our day-to-day behavior? Like, if my brain thinks I'm at the bottom of the tribe, what does it make me do?
It pushes you into a hyperreactive state. When the brain senses this social threat, it releases stress hormones like cortisol.
So you're stressed.
You're constantly stressed. You start feeling this low-grade, persistent anxiety that you're falling behind in a race. And when humans feel threatened and inadequate, two very specific behavioral shifts happen.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, your brain's reward center gets completely hijacked, meaning you suddenly become incapable of appreciating what you actually have.
Like nothing is good enough anymore.
Right. You could be sitting in a warm, comfortable apartment that you loved yesterday, but because you just spent 20 minutes looking at sprawling mansions online, your brain devalues your current environment. The joy of the apartment is just stripped away.
Because it's no longer a safe shelter, now it's a symbol of how far behind you are.
Yes, exactly. And that leads directly to the second, far more destructive shift. You impulsively start chasing goals that aren't even yours. You enter this state of chronic reaction just to alleviate the stress of feeling inadequate.
Okay, but wait, let me push back on this for a second. If I see someone crushing it, like they launch a successful business or they get in the best shape of their life, and I get that pang of jealousy,
hmm
isn't that just ambition? Isn't that competitive drive exactly what builds companies, pushes innovation, and wins gold medals?
It's a really crucial distinction to make, and it comes down to the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic reactivity.
Okay, explain that.
So, true ambition, the kind that builds sustainable success, is driven by dopamine and intrinsic values. You're moving toward a goal because it aligns with your internal compass.
Right, because you actually care about it.
Exactly. But what we're talking about here is an extrinsic cortisol-driven threat response. You aren't building a company because you love the work. You're suddenly working 80-hour weeks, sacrificing your sleep, and ignoring your family because you feel this desperate need to buy a luxury car.
Just to signal your status to people you don't even like.
Yes, you're reacting to the highlight reel.
So you're trying to put out a fire of insecurity, not build something meaningful.
Exactly. When you operate in that reactive state, the outside world is entirely dictating your internal temperature. You basically become a puppet.
A puppet. I like that visual.
Yeah, the trigger, whether it's an influencer's post, a neighbor's promotion, an ad for a watch, it pulls the string, and you just dance. You spend your money, your time, and your health trying to appease a tribe that doesn't actually care about you.
Oh, wow. The puppet visual really lands. And if we're already walking around in this heightened, cortisol-soaked state of feeling inadequate, that must bleed into everything else we do, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we aren't just impulsively buying things. We're impulsively reacting to everyone around us.
It lowers your threshold for provocation across the board. Because you're already on edge, your nervous system is primed for fight or flight.
You're just waiting for a threat.
Right. This means you become hypersensitive to minor, everyday frictions. A slightly blunt email from a coworker isn't just a communication issue anymore. Your brain perceives it as another attack on your already fragile status.
Or a driver cutting you off in traffic feels intensely personal.
Exactly. And because you're in this reactive mode, you explode, you fire back instantly.
And think about the terrifying math of those hot-headed reactions. An impulsive, angry explosion usually takes, what, maybe 5 seconds? You fire off that snarky, defensive reply to your boss. You yell at your partner because you were already stressed about the traffic jam.
And you cannot unsend that email. You cannot pull that hurtful word back out of the air. The chemical rush of anger dissipates in minutes, but the consequences of that 5-second reaction, they can fracture a relationship for weeks, months, or completely alter the trajectory of your career.
That is wild.
You're trading years of peace for a few seconds of unregulated emotional discharge.
So we're stuck in this exhausting loop. We compare ourselves to an illusion, we feel threatened, we impulsively chase the wrong things, and we snap at the people around us because our nervous systems are completely fried.
It's a vicious cycle.
So how do we break the circuit?
We have to engineer a barrier between the trigger and our response. It requires a fundamental shift in how we process stimuli. I mean, modern culture often romanticizes the instant reaction.
Oh, totally. Like clapback culture.
Exactly. We're told that if someone pushes you, you have to push back instantly to demonstrate strength. But neurobiology and psychology tell us the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, not reacting instantly is actually the ultimate flex of cognitive control.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It reminds me of that profound observation from the famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl.
Oh, yes.
He survived unimaginably horrific conditions, and he wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response."
It is arguably one of the most important concepts in behavioral psychology. When you react instantly, you collapse that space to zero.
You give up all your power.
You surrender your autonomy to whatever triggered you. The puppet string is pulled. But when you pause, you forcefully pry that space open. You create a buffer zone where you can evaluate the situation objectively.
And the mechanics of prying that space open come down to something incredibly simple yet biologically profound. The 5-second rule.
Yes.
When you feel that spike of jealousy, anger, or defensiveness, you take a deep breath and you force yourself to count to 5.
It sounds elementary, I know, but the neuroscience behind why it works is fascinating. It all comes down to the architecture of your brain.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So the part of your brain that processes emotional threats, the amygdala, is lightning fast. It receives sensory information in milliseconds and immediately sounds the alarm.
It's the panic button.
Right. But the part of your brain responsible for logic, rational thinking, and consequence evaluation, the prefrontal cortex, is slower. It takes a few extra seconds to boot up and assess whether the threat is actually real.
So when you explode instantly, you're literally acting without your full brain turned on. The logic center hasn't even arrived at the meeting yet.
Precisely. That 5-second pause is the literal physical time required for the electrical signals to reach your prefrontal cortex. It allows the logical adult in the room to look at the frantic amygdala and say, hold on, this isn't a saber-toothed tiger, it's just a passive-aggressive Slack message. We don't need to burn our career to the ground over this.
I love that. And once that logical brain is online, a great way to reframe the moment is to look at the situation like you're a director watching a movie of your own life.
Yes, detach from it.
Right, you detach from the emotion, zoom out, and ask one clarifying question. Will this matter to me in 1 year?
And for about 99% of our daily frustrations, the answer is a resounding no. That guy cutting you off in traffic, forgotten by tomorrow, the jealousy over someone's vacation photo.
Completely irrelevant in a week.
Exactly. When you realize it won't matter in a year, the urge to react simply dissolves.
This is essentially an exercise in extreme resource management. Like, think of your mental and emotional energy as a premium currency. It is the most valuable thing you own. You only have a finite amount of it every single day to spend on your goals, your family, and your peace of mind. You wouldn't log into your bank account, withdraw all your life savings, and hand it to a stranger who bumped into you on the street.
Right. It would be financial ruin.
Right. So why would you spend your most valuable, limited emotional reserves on a cheap trigger? Why let a stranger on the internet or a rude barista bankrupt your energy for the day? The 5-second pause lets you keep your money in the bank.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. You are protecting your capital, you're choosing to starve the drama and feed your actual life.
Yeah.
But, while the 5-second rule is a brilliant tactical defense for the heat of the moment, it's still just treating the symptom.
So there's more.
If we want to fundamentally cure this constant urge to compare and react, we have to go deeper. We have to address why we're so susceptible to the noise in the first place.
And that leads us to the final and maybe the most challenging piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
Learning the lost art of true solitude.
It is challenging because our modern society essentially pathologizes being alone. We are conditioned to view aloneness as a failure.
Oh, absolutely. If you go to a movie theater by yourself, or if you sit down at a nice restaurant for dinner and ask for a table for one, people actively look at you with pity.
They do.
There's this unspoken assumption that you must be broken or unlovable, or that your friends bailed on you.
And because of that social stigma, we have developed a collective terror of silence.
The terror of it, yeah.
The moment someone is left alone in a room, they experience an uncomfortable, almost physical itch. The absence of input feels agonizing. So we immediately reach for a pacifier.
Our phones.
Yes. We pull out our phones to scroll, we flip on the television just for the background noise, or we fire off texts to acquaintances we don't even really like, all just to avoid sitting with ourselves.
But we have to draw a hard line here between loneliness and solitude because they are fundamentally different states of being.
They are complete opposites. Loneliness is a state of painful isolation. It's a feeling of lack. You can be profoundly lonely while standing in a crowded room or while lying in bed next to a partner in a failing relationship.
Loneliness happens to you.
Exactly. Solitude, on the other hand, is a deliberate, positive choice. It's the intentional act of stepping away from the noise of the world to recharge, to reset your baseline dopamine levels, and to actually hear your own thoughts.
Because if you never experience solitude, your mind just becomes a dumping ground for the voices of everyone else.
So true.
Like if you have podcasts playing while you commute, TikTok running while you eat, and the TV on while you fall asleep, your internal monologue isn't even yours anymore. It's a Frankenstein's monster of social media algorithms, societal expectations, and peer pressure.
This is the concept of social contagion. We absorb the desires and fears of the people we surround ourselves with, both physically and digitally. If you never disconnect, you completely lose your inner voice. You forget what you actually value.
And if you don't know who you are?
If you don't know who you are or what you genuinely want, you'll default back to measuring your self-worth by everyone else's yardstick.
Which drags us right back into the comparison trap we started with.
Precisely. Building a tolerance for solitude is the only way to insulate yourself from that comparison. It acts as a diagnostic tool for your life.
A diagnostic tool.
Yeah, when you are comfortable being completely alone, your baseline state becomes peaceful, And that changes the entire dynamic of how you interact with the world.
Because it makes you fiercely selective about what and who you let into your life.
Yes. You stop accepting toxic friendships and you stop enduring bad relationships just because you're terrified of an empty house. Anyone who wants a piece of your time has to be better than your solitude. It is the ultimate form of freedom.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually build this tolerance? The sources suggest starting incredibly small. We aren't talking about going on a silent meditation retreat in the Himalayas.
No, no.
It's about microdosing solitude. Take yourself on a 30-minute walk in nature, but intentionally leave your headphones at home. Go to a cafe, order a coffee, and leave your phone in your pocket.
Just sit and observe. Let your brain process its own backlog of thoughts.
But let me throw a practical, real-world pushback your way.
Go for it.
Reading about a phone-free coffee date sounds incredibly romantic and serene. But the reality, sitting at a cafe table, staring at the wall while everyone around you is chatting and laughing, feels like wearing a giant, flashing neon sign that says, "I have no friends."
It does. It feels
It
exposed.
feels incredibly awkward. How does someone push through that intense, burning itch to pull out their phone and look busy?
It's an important hurdle, and understanding why it feels awkward is the key to beating it. That burning itch, that feeling of embarrassment is the exact puppet string we discussed earlier.
The threat of the tribe.
It is the evolutionary fear of being kicked out of the tribe, combined with modern societal conditioning. When you sit there, feeling that immense pressure to look busy, and you deliberately choose not to pull out your phone as a crutch, you're literally rewiring your brain. You are taking a pair of scissors to that puppet string.
You're proving to your own nervous system that you can exist independently of external validation, and you won't die.
Exactly. Enduring that initial discomfort is the crucible where true confidence is forged. Because genuine confidence has absolutely nothing to do with being better than the highlight reels.
It's not about winning.
It isn't about winning the comparison game. It's about opting out of the game entirely. It's about looking at your own deeply personal path and asking one simple question. Am I a better, more aligned version of myself than I was yesterday?
That is the only valid metric. Life is a highly complex, personalized journey, not a standardized 100-meter dash.
The timelines are completely incomparable. Think of the variables. You might have someone who graduates university at 22, seemingly way ahead of the pack. But then they spend a decade bouncing between careers, feeling lost and unfulfilled until they're 35.
Right. Meanwhile, someone else might achieve massive financial success at age 25, hitting every societal benchmark. But they spend the next decade battling severe, hidden mental health struggles behind closed doors.
You just cannot compare chapter 1 of your life to chapter 20 of someone else's. When you cultivate solitude, you realize that the only timeline that matters is your own. You stop running the race and start walking your path.
I love that. So pulling all of these threads together, we're really looking at a complete paradigm shift in how we manage our mental diet and our daily energy.
We really are.
We started by unpacking how the endless scroll of social media's highlight reels hijacks our evolutionary biology, trapping us in an unfair comparison game. And we explored how that feeling of falling behind acts as a cortisol trigger. It pushes us into a reactive state where we impulsively chase status and snap at the people we care about.
And we then looked at the mechanical fix, which is building that 5-second fortress, allowing our logical prefrontal cortex to boot up so we can protect our emotional capital from cheap, meaningless triggers.
And finally, we dug into the deeper cure, the challenging yet incredibly liberating practice of intentional solitude. By cutting the strings of constant distraction and learning to sit comfortably in the silence, we can rediscover our own internal compass.
It's a blueprint for reclaiming your mental sovereignty in an outrageously noisy world.
It really is. So as you head back out into that noise, whether you're commuting, working, or just managing the daily chaos, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over in your next moment of silence.
The big question.
Yeah. If life truly isn't a standardized race, and we're all running on our own totally unique, incomparable timelines, what if that finish line you've been exhaustedly sprinting toward all these years was actually drawn by somebody else?
That is a question worth turning your phone off for.
Protect your energy, guard your space, and embrace the deep dive into your own solitude.